Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sundays in Studio with Mo and Lee.
Hey.
How are you doing this morning, Mo?
I'm good, and you, Lee?
So, sorry for those of you who are watching. We just had a bit of our producer back there was giving us signs. We didn't know how to interpret it. He was like 10, 9, you know,
5.
throwing up gang signs. We were like, yo, hectic. Where do we find ourselves right now? But anyway, guys, welcome to Sundays in Studio with Mo and Lee. Mo, what we have to do is wish our viewers a happy new year. We haven't seen you guys since when? Last year?
2020.
Yo, and that's behind us. Hello 2021. We are looking forward, hey.
No,
What
we are
you
looking
say?
forward.
So how was your December?
I was working, slaving
health
away
day.
as usual.
Frontline workers, guys. Keep them in prayer, please.
What were you doing?
I was also working. Inside stuff. I was looking back on our
Yes,
shows.
this is our producer, ladies
I was
and
busy doing
gentlemen.
the things that need to be done to the stuff.
Crazy.
So-
And how did you spend your New Year's?
New Year's I was at family. I was at my cousin's house. We were just chilling.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was it. New Year's Eve, obviously we were in lockdown. We had a curfew at 9 o'clock, and one of our ministers were telling us that we must go sleep by 9. Kanti, where? We weren't doing that. What did you do New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, I went into the New Year sleeping. I actually couldn't stay awake.
Wow, shame.
I
You were
was
working.
11 hours in bed. I was exhausted.
Babes.
Um,
Anyway, to those of you who are watching, thank you so much for joining us. It's early on a Sunday
Yes.
morning, but we are so happy to have you here because you guys just make everything so much better. You know
Thank
what I
you.
mean? So we have a very special guest in studio this morning.
Yes.
Very special guest, Mr. Cool himself, and he is going to be speaking to us about financial fitness. None other than the wonderful Matthew Lee, folks. Matt, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Angela. Thanks for having me on show today.
No
I'm doing
problem.
good.
That's good. So we were talking about our December, right? What were you doing December 2020?
I was working at home.
Work from
We're all
home.
just
busy working from
working.
home, getting the
Yes.
house ready, have a baby on the way. So, been
So
obviously
excited.
building and getting,
Shout
working
out to your
housework.
wife at home who's hopefully watching this. If
Sure
not,
she is.
afterwards, you better tell her to watch this afterwards. But shout out to you at home. So you are going to be a dad soon.
One of these days. yeah, God willing.
2021. You've got a 2021 baby.
COVID baby, they say.
Oh.
Wow. We know what you were doing. But
Hopefully
no.
more on the way.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's the first time.
First one, yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. So I'm just quickly going to I'm going to allow Matt to introduce himself, right? And then we're going to jump straight into the topic. We're going to be speaking about Financial Fitness 2021 because we all want to know how to make our money work for us and how to grow that thing. We don't want to lose money anymore. So Matt, please just introduce yourself to the viewers. What is it that you do? And then we'll get into it. Mo will jump straight into that.
Great, thanks, guys. So, just to give a small background, I have a company that I started 4 years ago called Innovate Alternative Assets and Solutions. And the reason for the start of the company is I was actually in the financial space working at EY as a chartered accountant. And during my time there, I worked a lot with a lot of your financial institutions, your banks, your private wealth companies. And I realized, there's a massive gap in the market where the returns and the investments people are putting their money into, it's just not enough in order for them to retire one day.
Yes.
And there's this huge gap that 99% of our population currently cannot retire and live the same lifestyle upon retirement as what they live in pre-retirement.
Sure.
And that's a sad
Wow.
stat that 95% of the population can't do that. And
So
for that gap,
is this even for people that have been saving up for retirement like at an early age, like say for instance starting 25 for instance?
Yes.
Wow.
That is one of the stats. And the main reason, like I say, is many people put a portion of their money away into savings, and a financial advisor will come to them, and many aunts and uncles and family members and friends will say, hey, when you're 20 years old, in 25 years' time, you'll have 2-3 million.
Yes.
But what they don't tell them is what is the actual value of that money in 25 years' time.
Yes,
Wow.
100%.
If you looked at 25 years ago when our parents were our age and someone told them, hey, in 20 years' time, you'll have 2 million rand. It sounded like a lot of money. So if I
Yeah.
told you now, Leandra, Monique, Would you guys like to have 10 million rand today? You think,
I'd
"Phew,
say
so
yes.
you can definitely live on it."
Definitely.
But if you take a million rand today, or someone who retire 25 or plan to retire on a million rand today, what can you do with a million rand?
Yeah.
If you put it into a bank
Sure.
and you're earning 6% interest per annum,
Yes.
it works on to 5 to 6,000 rand
Sheesh.
a month. So there's a lot of things that I realize that, people are not actively watching their investments, how their investments are growing. And that's a key thing to do when you have investments, to make sure you're on top of it, check the performance of it. And yeah,
So what would you say is your investment philosophy?
my investment philosophy. So there's 4 simple steps to my investment philosophy. And they'll go as follows. So firstly, I would say everyone should always allocate a small portion of their income on a monthly basis to investments.
Okay.
Definitely ensure you have a diversified portfolio. Have multiple streams of income. All right.
Okay.
Always look for returns that is between 10 to 15% on your investment portfolio as a whole. So some will give you more, some will give you less, but try average between that, because that's when your money actually really grows.
Yes.
You always need to be above of inflation and above ahead of the curve. And that's the reason why lots of people are in the situation they are today, is because the returns they've been getting throughout their life hasn't been beating inflation.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And a third point would be actively monitor and check your investments. If you think about it, you work extremely hard to put money away,
Yes.
and yet
Yeah.
you're giving it away to someone else to look after. And
that's true.
you put in your life's work in someone else's hands to ensure that one day you can retire.
Yeah.
So I think the one important thing I would say to the viewers out there is definitely take control of your future. Take control of your investments. So yes, you can get guidance, and that's why we have financial advisors and we have companies like ours that can give you assistance and guidance on where to invest. But you still need to be involved. Don't just think of putting your money away and leaving it one day and hopefully you'll be rich one day, because you need to actively monitor it. No one else will look after your investments as good as you would.
Yes.
So I think that's an
Yes.
important thing. And then lastly, the most important thing is compound, compound, and compound. I'm sure you guys would have heard that compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, and that is the
Eighth
case.
wonder.
Yes.
That's how people become financially free, and really how your investment portfolio will grow, is if you just continue to let it compound and grow. Lots of people get to a point where they've got a lot of money in the investment, and now it's time for it to really take off, and then they start withdrawing those funds.
Yes.
I think that's
Okay.
my investment philosophy as well.
Definitely.
Okay. And like for me, well, I'm a beginner. I'm still young, I started working recently because I study and I work. So as a beginner like myself, what would you say is the best way to actually start investing? What's the best way?
The best way to start investing.
Yes. For like a beginner like myself.
Best way to start investing is to start
Starting.
putting money away. Start saving.
Yeah.
I think an important key thing is for beginners who want to start investing is to look at your budget. Actually put a budget together and put away to start with, like we would put away in the kingdom 10% towards tithe.
Yes.
Pay God first. I believe in paying yourself second.
Yes.
You're working hard for that money. Take 10%. Start with 10% and pay yourself. And that's a saving that you would start with. After that, that's what you would create a budget for. And once you have a budget, that's what you start living within your means. Don't spend money that you don't have.
Yes.
Live within your means.
Yes.
Okay.
That's quite interesting because I was so back in the day, I remember Uncle Bash borrowed me a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I've followed him throughout the years since then. So I read the book. I was still young that time, so I didn't really understand what he was talking about. But as I started growing and I got older and I started managing my money, I found quite a lot of interesting points from his philosophies. And he actually speaks about the cash flow quadrant, and he was saying there's like 4 type of people. There's the employee, the person that just gets money, and then also they put their money away, store it under the bed, because that's how we were taught. We were like, here's your little piggy bank and put your money away. But you were speaking about something very important, compound, right? And just stashing your money under the mattress is not going to help you. That's olden day stuff that our parents used to do. But also, there's another book that I read, How to Manage Your Money Like an Effing Grown Up. And this lady was also speaking about that specifically. It's a South African writer. And she was also speaking about compound. And she was like, a lot of the times we feel, like you were saying, there's a financial advisor that comes in. And this financial advisor tells you about, putting money away, your retirement fund, and you put a certain amount of money away, but the interest is not above inflation. And even sometimes, like when you put money in the bank, that for me, this woman was saying that's the worst place that you can save your money in. Do you agree with that statement, or would you say that it varies?
So I'd say it varies because I do believe you need to have some cash available for emergencies. So there's different, like I said earlier on, you need to look at the diversification of a portfolio.
Yes.
So have something in some areas that where you've got income coming in from, some places where you have cash readily available, where you have liquidity. So if something happens, you can quickly go to the bank and pull that cash.
Okay.
Or if an opportunity arises,
Yes.
you have cash available. So I think it's about diversifying your portfolio. And that's why I said when you look at the portfolio as a whole, you need to ensure that you're getting returns above inflation.
Yes.
And aiming for that 10 to 12%. So I'm not saying the bank is completely a bad idea, but don't have all your money in the bank. I think that's the key thing, because you do need to have some cash available because opportunities do arise.
Yes.
Take COVID, for example.
Yeah.
The entire markets, when everyone heard last year, March, what happened to the markets, it dropped. And over that time, many people became multimillionaires. Why? Because they had cash available, they had
Yes.
savings available to buy into those stocks when they were at the very bottom.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's always good to also have savings, have cash available, but also have your money invested in areas that is giving you an income on a consistent basis.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned COVID, because 2020 was a tough year for some people financially. So what would you say for 2021 would be good investment and budgeting tips?
So definitely, like as I mentioned earlier on, is budgeting is the key thing. To manage money is the first thing before you start making money. Because if you budget well, you can save, and if you save, you have money available to invest.
Yes.
And for 2021, I think a key thing for people out there is to make sure that don't spend money you don't have. Number one.
True.
Okay. I know it's as young people, we always want to have nice cars, nice clothes, create this image, and many of us spend money on credit. You know, rather save money or use your credit to buy things that appreciate in value, and not depreciate in value. And I think that's a thing I would also mention, like to a lot of people, is always spend money what you've got.
Yes.
Don't spend money that you don't have. And I think that's a key thing. And for 2021, have cash available. I do see this year will be a tough year, but in a tough year, entrepreneurs see lots of opportunities.
Yes.
And having cash available will, how can I say, open up those opportunities when they become available.
Definitely. I actually saw something the other day, because you were speaking about credit, right? And I was listening to this one economist that was on Carte Blanche, and he was saying that, because in layman's terms, because I was like, I hear all these fancy words like the jargon, but I don't understand. But he explained it so cool. He was saying that if we look at the debt of South Africa, and he was also saying that South Africans in general, they have like a spending personality. So we do accumulate quite a lot of debt that we cannot then pay off. So he explained it like this. He was saying that, think about it this way, right, with the South African economy. If South Africa has 100 Rand, right, we are in 90 Rand debt, which means that we have 10 Rand to live off of. And that's applicable to most households. So on
100%.
on the topic of debt now you're sitting with the debt, but you still need to think about the future. You can't now just throw in the towel and say, well, I have to pay off my debt. What would you then therefore suggest because that should be a priority now. You've got your debt that you need to sort out, but how then do you still work towards financial freedom even if you're sitting in that situation?
It's an interesting question. So when you look at debt, and many people, like you say, in our country are currently sitting in debt, a person would, you obviously only have your current income, you know, and one way would be to start looking at alternative jobs, looking to find other income, you know, get other income to try to reduce that debt. Also look at your expenses again. That goes back to budgeting.
Yes.
I have many clients that are earning 10,000 Rand a month and clients that are earning 5 million Rand a month. Clients are earning 10 million Rand a month. And all of them have the same situation. It's because people are living not within their means. So sometimes if you have debt, say, what is it that I can cut off? You know, what is something I can have less of? If you used to eating a steak every night, maybe you can have a steak every 3 nights.
Yes.
You know, and start reducing that in order to start cutting your debt. So I think that's the first way to get out of debt, is obviously to reduce your lifestyle to a point where once you're out of debt, you can always come back. So lots of people always say, no, you know, sure, I'll give you an example. Some clients bought a house of 10, 20 million rand, and now all of a sudden, COVID happened, and they feel that it's a shame to go back in life. So they'd rather suffer. I would rather say, look,
Sure.
let's rather take one step back. Sometimes you need to take a step back to move forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
And
100%.
don't always think that you're moving back in life. You're actually cancelling your debt,
Yes.
reducing your expenses to get back in life and to get out of debt. So I think that's a key thing to sometimes not always look at, I can't go back to driving a City Golf after I'm driving a Porsche. You can,
Yes.
because if you're driving a Porsche and you continue staying in debt, you're never going to get out of it.
Yes.
But if you go back in your income and you can start from the beginning again, clear your debt and build up, I believe that's a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you mentioned something so important when you speak about your financial, your investment philosophy. You were saying, you were talking about what I would summarize it as ownership. Take ownership of your finances. A lot of the times we think, well, we aren't financially literate because, we didn't do accounting, but I guess that's a misconception. The fact of the matter is we all use money. So we should all be financially literate, right? And then so how would you advise people who are watching at home to take ownership? Because it's one thing to say take ownership of your money, and you mentioned a few things, don't live above your means, budget and those kinds of things. But the concept of money and taking that and becoming financially fit for 2021.
Okay. So I think to answer that question, I think a key thing is, like you say, many people feel they're financially, they're not inclined, or when they hear finance, they want to run away.
Yeah.
Okay. I think as anything in life, if it's an important thing in life, get some education and learn about it, read about it, study about it. But
Yes.
simple things, when I say take ownership, okay, what lots of people wouldn't look at is if you have somebody showing you investments, okay, keep them accountable to that. If they say they're giving you this percentage, ask them to say, okay, let's look at the cost. What are the costs involved? Follow up with them on a quarterly basis. Don't leave your money sitting for 5 years and then want to have a look and see where it's at and how your portfolio has performed. So from that ownership perspective, I think is if I give you 100 rand and you tell me, Matthew, I can give you 10% per annum.
Okay.
So I expect to get that 10 rand every year.
Yes.
At the end, in the middle of the year, I should pick up the phone and phone my financial advisor and say, how's my fund performing? Are we close to that 10 rand? Are we at 5 rand now?
Yes.
So try find out, and that's why I talk about monitoring your performance. Find out, because if someone tells you they're doing something and not getting to that point, then does it make sense to leave your money with them?
Yeah, true.
And when lots of people say, look, because remember, most financial advisors, and I'm not saying it's obviously the economy and all that, but if a financial advisor comes to you and they promise you, they say, look, if your returns at this, you'll have this one day.
Yes.
So if you're not monitoring to see if you are getting those returns, there's no chance that you'll have the outcome one day.
Yeah.
And lots of people just put their money in, and 20 years later they look at the outcome and but this is not what you promised me. And again, that's not taking ownership, because they never followed up with the advisors or the investments to see if it was performing as anticipated.
Yes.
And that's what I think I'll take it on.
And as a young entrepreneur yourself, you started your own thing 4 years ago. What advice would you give to younger entrepreneurs?
What advice I'd give to younger entrepreneurs? Okay, so a very important thing to notice as an entrepreneur is everyone always thinks entrepreneurs is all about making money.
Yeah.
Okay, entrepreneurs are just out there to make a lot of money. And I think that is a misconception.
I think so as
Okay,
well.
entrepreneurs, what makes a successful entrepreneur is they actually look in the economy and in the market to try and solve problems.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing. If you can find and solve problems, you can become a really great entrepreneur. So looking to solve problems. Secondly, I'll tell young guys is to enjoy what you do. Young guys and girls, enjoy what you do, because if you have passion in something you do, you will become successful in that.
Yes.
If you have those two recipes, money will follow. So money is a result of that. It's not something that you should focus on and as an entrepreneur should look towards. Rather look for problems, try to solve problems, make a difference in lives, and obviously enjoy what you're doing, and the money will follow.
I want to ask you something on a different topic. Similar topic, but there's this wave that I've been noticing which is trading, right? A lot of guys and girls are getting into trading, so the online trading and stuff like that.
Like Bitcoin and all that.
Yeah, like Bitcoin and the obviously
Forex
and those kinds of things. So what advice would you give to people when it comes to trading? Do you think it's a viable solution to creating wealth? And can you actually, because I know that with any investment, there's risk involved, right? But what is your advice to people who are considering to go into trading?
So trading can definitely make you money. Okay.
Yeah.
The problem and the misconception people have is that it's extremely riskful if you don't know what you're doing.
I think so.
So, yes, money can be made, but you can also lose your money within a couple of minutes or in a couple of hours. You know?
Yes.
So, and there's a lot of things, like I agree with you, on Facebook, on social media. Hey, you can make millions in the next couple of months. Just put here, you'll get 10% a day, 20% a day. One has got to ask themselves also is there, if these people are actually getting these returns, why would they not do it for themselves?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to say, because there is a lot of scams out there. Lots of people, I mean, you would have seen in the news lately, there's been so many Ponzi schemes, so many scams, because, again, people are taking advantage of people during desperate times.
Yes.
You know, so I think trading definitely is good if you know what you're doing.
Yes.
I would say it's not as simple as people make it out to be, that you can just put money in and you'll make money. Definitely not. There's a lot of risk to it. There's a lot of backing. I mean, people study years and years to become traders, and even then, top traders lose money. You know, so I think it's important to just be careful and be cautious when getting into these type of things. Really vet and understand where your money is being placed. You know, because lots of people are saying, put your money into Bitcoin or put your money into crypto and you'll be rich. Yes, crypto has been one of the best performing assets in the last 10 years. Bitcoin, I mean, recently hit over 650,000 Rand. You know, so I mean, so yes, we do invest and we do have clients investing into coins. However, trading is not something I recommend for someone that has no experience in it, because you can get burnt very quickly.
Yes. And then you were speaking about a diversified portfolio. So can you just run us through that quickly? What you would advise to be, like, I don't know, would you call it your basic kit when it comes to a diversified portfolio?
So mine is very different to the normal space.
Okay.
Because we work in the alternative investment space, we're not many people are familiar with the regulated space.
Yes.
So let me rather talk a bit about the regulated space in a diversification perspective. And then I'll touch a bit on our space and what we do.
Okay.
So, you know, a diversified portfolio would mean you're taking different investments with different risks. Okay, so you've obviously got low risk investments, you've got moderate risk investments, you've got high risk, and you've got super high risk investments.
Yes.
Now, if I had to ask you, what would you consider low risk investment? So something like a bond or cash in the bank would be low risk. For having a low risk, obviously there's a lower return.
Yes.
Okay. Then you look at something bit more moderate risk. And that in the FSCA space would be something like unit trusts, you know. That's where it's a diversified portfolio, like your Allen Greys, your Sanlams. That's more in the moderate risk. So it's not ultra low, but it's got some risk to it. But you would expect to earn higher returns within that space.
Yes.
Okay. And then when you look a bit more on the higher risk space, that's things similar to shares. Do you agree? If you buy into a share like in Sasa or MTN or any of this, there is much more upside should they do well, but there's also downside if the company does bad. So the risk is a bit more than that of the bank. So when you talk about a diversified portfolio, you want to look at having investments in different asset classes.
Okay.
Property. Lots of people would have previously considered property as a very low risk investment.
Yes.
Okay. Recently it's become a bit more moderate risk because of the economy. So have money in different areas. Super high risk is usually when you come to me, VCs, startup companies. Do you agree there's a chance I can make a lot of money if I start a business, or I can lose a lot of money?
Definitely.
So that they would be considered more of a super high risk investment in a more conventional space. So when I talk about a diversified portfolio, I'm saying try have money in a bit of all those areas.
Okay.
Okay, and then your overall return, ensure that is obviously above inflation, and you're looking at 10 to 20.
And then just if you split it up, say for instance you're working on a 100%
allocation.
Yeah. So then you'll say you wouldn't do 25, 25, 25, 25.
So that will all, again, so I wouldn't say I'm a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, okay? But that would all, I know what they would look at is depending on the risk of the person,
Okay.
the age of the person, where they are in their life.
I
You
see.
know, because someone who's younger will likely take more risk and have more money sitting in the moderate,
risk.
high risk space.
Okay.
Some in the low risk as a person who's about to retire.
Yes.
And they can't afford to take on risk. So they'll be more in the low to moderate risk
Okay.
space. So that's client, how can I say?
Dependent.
Dependent,
Yeah. And then what you guys do in your company? Just briefly, it doesn't
Briefly.
have to be.
Okay, so we focus in investments outside of the normal space, and that's where I found the gap, because for me, the investments in the normal space just weren't enough.
Okay.
Okay, and we looked at for alternative investments that are not sitting or your conventional investments that people think about. Lots of the investments we do would be in businesses. We take in individuals directly to the investment itself.
Okay.
So we're not sitting as a house where you put your money with us and then we would go and invest the money and give you a return. We thought, let's take individuals and let's take people directly to the opportunity and let the opportunity pay them direct.
Yes.
So there's no middleman cut. So that's what we're looking at in our space.
Okay. And then how do people get hold of you if they are looking to investments, whether it be business people looking out, where can we find you?
So we obviously have a website. You can find
Yes.
us on our website. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, I think all social media areas. So,
And then just, do you accept anybody as a client, or do you first have to do like a, how can I put it?
Background check.
Screening kind of a thing
Background
before
check.
you, obviously anybody can contact you, right? Or
Yes,
do
yes,
you
yes.
specifically say, well, you know, in terms of our client base, this is what we're looking for, because you guys are an alternative investment solution, basically, if I can summarize it like that? Or do you just cater to everybody?
I wouldn't say, look, we're always willing to help anybody, and everybody that's willing to listen, someone that's willing to or wants to grow their wealth. I mean, we're all about creating wealth, growing wealth, and persevering wealth. I mean, I think that's one of our main visions and missions in life as a company, you know. So, yeah, we're open to take any client. Our current client base is very unique because not many people understand alternative investments.
Yes.
But, yeah, we're definitely open to take on any client.
Okay, so we will be putting Matt's details in the description after this, so do have a look
Yes.
out for that, so where you can find him, how to get a hold of him. And then, let's just have a look at the time. Do you have anything to say in closing? You guys, let's start with Matt.
Anything to say
In summary.
about financial fitness?
About financial fitness, I think the main thing with financial fitness is we want to become financially free in order to become a blessing and to help others.
Yes.
So I think that's the main thing, like I would say to other young aspiring entrepreneurs, to say, work on yourself to get your business to become successful. Don't forget about the people that helped you get to that point in life. Because the whole thing of becoming an entrepreneur, it's not, like I said earlier, it's not all about the money. It's about
Yes.
changing lives, creating opportunities, solving problems in society, and impacting lives. So I think that's an important thing, like I would want other young entrepreneurs to look at. Not about the money. The money will come, and yes, you will make a lot of money. If you focus and you solve problems, money will follow. And impacting and changing lives, you know.
Yes.
And I believe that's something we need to change in our society as a whole, is let's try help others grow, help others. If I make a lot of money and I can do well, I would want everybody around me to do well.
Yes.
You know, and that's how you change the economy. You change the projection of the youth and of the people in our country, I think.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Absolutely
And I
amazing.
love what you said about do what you love, because it's so important.
Definitely.
It's very important.
Passion and purpose.
Passion
That's
and
what it's
purpose.
about. So, Matt, we want to say thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on and sharing your insights. I feel like this shouldn't be a once-off thing. What do you think,
We
Mo?
need a financial fitness part
coach,
2 soon.
financial fitness coach,
Coach.
Matt Lee. We can. That's what we'll do. So for everybody who have been watching up
Thank
until
you
this
so
point, we want to say
much.
thank you so much. I know. Well, if you were paying us careful attention as Mo and I, you must have, you know, learned something, taking
Yes.
something out of this. And then, like I mentioned to you, we will have Matt's details in the description later after this. We will put it in there. So do have a look out for that.
Our first show for 2021.
Whoop, whoop, beep, 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 beep. We have got an exciting lineup planned. We were talking.
We were speaking.
We were busy brainstorming, and
Yes.
it was a
We're
hell of a
excited.
storm.
New year.
Yes.
New year being
Yes.
financially fit.
Amen.
So thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
And hit that notification bell. See you next week, Sundays in studio with Mo and Lee.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.